Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up towards Stockholm, and this is actually my second review from these guys. My very first Swedish beer review was also a Nils Oscar. That was the God Lager, which was quite a nice one. But today we're going to have a taste of the India Ale, which is supposed to be an English IPA, but it does have American hops, so should be quite an interesting one for us to try today. So as is usual with my reviews then, I'll take you through a brief history of the brewery. Will only be a minute or two long, but if you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All of the usual websites are in the video description for you below. The brewery website, my other Nils Oscar reviews, the Facebook page and the Untappd profile. So check all of those out and connect with me in whatever way you like. Really quite looking forward to this one, and I'll apologise in advance in case any of my Swedish pronunciations are wrong. I'm still getting used to the language here actually. But anyway, the Nils Oscar Brewery were formed in 1996, and since September of 2006 they've been located at Frängskälen in Nyköping, which is just about 10 miles to the south of Stockholm. Now the brewery boasts one of the most modern malting facilities in Europe, and they produce their own malts at their Tierno Manor base, which is located in a building from the 1700s. So the brand is based on Nils Oscar Sundberg, who was from a village called Branden in the Norrbotten region of Sweden. But this area has a lot of heritage in timber and mining activities, but there was a really tough economic period there in the late 1800s, and obviously the area was hit very, very hard by that. But in 1882, at the age of 17, Nils Oscar received a ticket to the USA from an immigrant relative who owned a farm over there, and he went over the Atlantic and worked there for 18 years, initially working in a kitchen. But during his time in the US, he caught typhus, and he also studied business English at the Bryant and Stratton Business College in Chicago, and the principal of this college actually thought extremely highly of Nils and his work ethic and honesty. But in 1900, Nils returned to Sweden and he married his wife Ida, and he eventually had 4 sons together with her. But they established a family farm at Branden, and this is where the Tierno Manor is located and where the Nils Oscar Brewery and Distillery is today. So when forming the brewery, Carl David Sundberg was inspired by the stories that Nils Oscar had brought back from the USA, and he said that it felt natural to name the brewery after his relative. So this is actually quite a cool brewery in the sense that it is family owned, but they actually do have quite a big array of products that you can get from these guys. It's kind of like an old style manor brewery these days. I believe they do like cheeses and milks and things. It's a proper kind of farm brewery, almost like one of these German ones that you get. But all of the beers that they do have English and Swedish names. So their beers include Bordsöl, which is a low percentage collaboration beer with Patrick Holmqvist of the F12 group. They've got the barley wine, the Control Alt Delete, which is a German style beer, Coffee Stout, Hopyard IPA, Imperial Stout, this guy here, which is the India Ale, Callus Ale, which was originally an Oktoberfest beer but is now brewed year round because of its popularity. There's also Callus Julol, which is their Christmas seasonal beer, Callus Pestloket, which is their Easter seasonal beer, Rook Porter, which is a porter beer, toffee and dried fruit flavours in that one apparently, and they also have the Oktoberfest and their famous God Lager as well, Good Lager beer, which was the one I reviewed for you before. So anyway, that's your kind of a brief run through of the Nils Oscar Brewery, so let's get stuck into this guy and see how we get on. I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the artwork on this one. But this guy is a 5.3% IPA. It was introduced in 2005. It has Munich malts in it, Pilsner malts and also Cara malts, and it's hopped with Amarillo hops from America. You can see the Nils Oscar bottle cap on it there. I'm not sure how clearly you can see that. I'll just put it right up to the camera. You can see Nils Oscar's head on it, but basically it's the same thing that's on the label here. But you can see this one has the kind of Indian colours on it, except silver obviously in place of white. But yeah, it looks very, very nice. Says don't drink it if you're pregnant, throw your litter away, recycle, all of this kind of thing. But yeah, it has a bit in Swedish on the side, but basically, as I was saying, this just gives you a bit of a history of the India Pale Ale style. It tells you that the beer was first brewed in 2005 and that it's hopped with Cascade and with Magnum, Cascade and Amarillo. Sorry, I'm telling you that it's just Amarillo that's in there, but it's Magnum, Cascade and Amarillo, so a really nice array of American hops there. But without further ado, let's get stuck into this guy. So as you can see, a nice smoky opening there as we open this one up. This is quite a popular and quite widely available beer in Sweden, incidentally. As I've told you on many of these reviews of Swedish videos, those of you watching outside of Sweden maybe don't know that the alcohol shops are all nationalised here. They're called Systembolaget, and this is one of the most common beers that you can find in these shops. But some of the ones that are very common are really quite good, actually. So, as you can see, this beer has poured a nice kind of rich, clear orangey amber colour. It's got a kind of half finger of a frothy, probably creamy coloured head, actually. Not brilliantly white, I would say, but yeah, creamy coloured is probably the best way to describe that. But there's actually a lot of carbonation visible in this beer. Some big bubbles sticking to the side of the glass, but a lot of little bubbles kind of visible going up towards the bottom of the head, although I'm thinking it probably will be quite a smooth beer, just having a wee look at it there. But as you can see, it is transparent if I put my fingers behind it, but very attractive looking beer. So let's have a look at the aroma of this one here. You can actually, one of the things that's really jumping out of this beer at me is the kind of Munich and Pilsner malts in this beer. Those are really prominent to me. It's a little bit of a kind of grainy malt character and some caramel that's jumping out of this beer. That's the first thing that comes. It's just a bit of nostalgia, actually. It's these German beer characteristics, the German Pils and Helles characteristics that are jumping out at me from this one. You can smell a bit of the darker, kind of richer caramel in there too, but a definite biscuity graininess, and you can really pick up those Pilsner and Munich malt characteristics in this beer. If you sugar it up a little bit more and take a smell from a bit more of a distance, you start to get more of the fruity notes. And there's a bit of an orange and definitely a kind of juicy orange note coming off this one. But you're definitely getting as well some sort of floral and aromatic hop character from this beer. And that's typical of these, the Magnum, the Cascade and the Amarillo. The Magnum, if I remember rightly, is a nice bittering hop in it. Gives you a good bit of sort of grassy and aromatic character, and that's definitely what you can pick up in this. A nice floral, grassy, aromatic character in this one. Some nice juicy oranges, and there is a little bit of tropical fruit in there too, and that's what you would pick up from the Cascade hop. The Cascade hop has a nice kind of grapefruity note in there, and the oranges are more, I think, more from the they come from the Cascade too, but I think Amarillo and Magnum are more these nice florally aromatic notes. So overall in the nose, a nice kind of Germany smelling malt base, some nice bready characteristics, that Munich malt and the Pilsner malt really coming out of this one. A bit of a richer caramel as well, and some nice grainy biscuity elements like I said, but some nice juicy oranges, a little bit of tropical fruit, probably grapefruit, and some floral aromatic grassy character. So as I always say, give your beers a little bit of a smell before you get stuck into them. But let's get stuck into this guy now properly then. So this is the India Ale from Nils Oscar in Nyköping, which is close to Stockholm in Sweden. Skål! It's quite interesting actually. Yeah, so even though it has American hops in it, to me, it actually does come across as more of a kind of English IPA, if that makes sense. And when it is an India Ale, really that is what you would expect. I was expecting it to be a bit more like the American Pale Ale, just considering the hops that it had in it, but it really does come across as more of a kind of English style IPA. With the hop characteristics, it's a nice kind of darker aromatic character, and the malt base is quite cereally and spicy as well, which is interesting. Yeah, the fruity characters in this beer just come out a little bit more as your palate adjusts, but initially it comes in with a big sort of spicy character to the beer. And that's both from the malt base and from the hoppy characteristics in this beer. But the middle of your palate just gets blanketed with this nice kind of bready element that you expect of a German Pils beer, or maybe even a Helles. So You get this pale malt, Munich Pilsner malt, pale malt, that just blankets the middle of your tongue there. And on top of that, there's a bit of a cereally and spicy character in there. And it does get a little bit dry as you move into the aftertaste actually, but it's quite nice. And there is a bit of a kind of caramelly and biscuity sweetness that just goes right down the middle of the palate there. Yeah. The fruity characteristics in the beer come out a little bit later on. Once you get past that initial spiciness and bitterness, you just get a little bit of a sweet caramel coming out, and it's really quite nicely done, I have to say. Yeah. You'll feel a little oily bubble behind the very front of your tongue, and there's a nice, slightly juicy orange flavour coming out in there. Just a nice, light orangey flavour, not too citric and dry in the way that some of them can be. Just a nice, lightly juicy, oily orange flavour, and it works really well for the beer. There is maybe just a little bit of a tropical fruit flavour in there, but definitely, I want to say definitely a nice, sweet, juicy orange flavour coming out of this guy. But yeah, it's nicely done. It definitely finds, I would say in terms of style, I always like to talk about this with IPAs. This one is definitely more of an English style IPA than an American IPA, I would say. And to me, that defining character really is the cereal element in the malt base there, and the way that the hops come out. So with the hops, you've got a nice grassy and aromatic character, and it's quite dry actually, particularly. It becomes a bit more aromatic as you get round, as you move further round the back of the tongue. It's a bit kind of smoother and grassy element on the front curve, but then it gets more aromatic and a bit drier as you move further back. And there is perhaps just a little bit of an earthy characteristic corners of the tongue. I think that's probably more the Magnum that does that, I would say. But yeah, it's very well balanced, and that earthy part in the back corners of the palate, that really helps balance the beer between the nice kind of cereally spice that you get in the middle of the palate and the more smooth hoppy parts of the beer. The earthy character at the back corners of the palate is just a little bit spicy as well, I would say. So the flavours in this beer do go together very well, I have to admit, and I remember thinking the same for the God Lager, so it's perhaps a bit of a trademark of Nils Oscar. But yeah, really quite nicely done actually. In terms of the mouthfeel, this one, I definitely say it's quite light to mid-bodied. A nice smooth carbonation on it, I would say. It's got a good balance between the hops and the malt. There is a bit of malty sweetness in this, and also a little bit of a sweetness from the juicy characters of the beer. There's a little bit of an oily feel to the orangey fruits that you get out of this. But as you move into the aftertaste, it becomes a bit drier, and that's both from the aromatic and floral and grassy elements of the beer at the sides of the tongue, but you also have that kind of cereally aspect in the middle of the malt base too, which gives it a bit more of a dry character. But overall, this is a really quite nice beer, and it's one that I could actually, if I was going out to drink a few beers, it's one that I could say that I would probably actually use as a session beer. So if you want a nice sessionable beer that's got a good bit of flavour in it, then this is one that you would probably want to go for. If you want a bit of an alternative to kind of the typical lager beers and things, this is a good sessionable beer from Sweden. And a couple of the other ones that are like that are the Popo's American Pale Ale and things, but this is a nice one, and I quite like this idea that they have in Sweden of the kind of India tribute ales. It's a nice idea that we could see it, that would be nice. It'd be nice if it was implemented a bit more in America and in Britain and things like that. So really quite a nice beer, so do check it out if you get the chance. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. It's been really cool to return to Nils Oscar and do another Swedish beer review for you. As always, I'll ask my Swedish viewers to let me know some other beers that I should have a look at. Always interesting to hear from you guys. But I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Let me know in the comment section below your own thoughts if you do happen to have tried this beer before. There will be more Swedish reviews added fairly soon, and as well as there being some more from Norway and Denmark and hopefully Finland at some point in the future as well. But I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Until the next one, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff, and I'll catch you then with my next one. Many more Swedish reviews to come. Skål!